She came with 3 men I had never seen before. Big, rough-looking guys stepped out of her SUV like they owned the street. Karen pointed at my house and shouted, "That man refuses to join the HOA. Make him sign today or drag him out." One of the thugs cracked his knuckles, grinning like it was already over. My dog, a trained canine, stood at the porch, growling low, ears pinned back. They laughed at first, calling him a mutt, but I didn't laugh. I leaned against my shotgun by the door and said calmly, "Step 1 foot closer and you'll regret it." Karen sneered, clutching her fake HOA binder like it was a holy book. "You're on HOA land now and you follow my rules," she yelled. But her voice shook just a little. The biggest thug stepped forward and the canine lunged, barking so hard the man froze in place. I could see doubt spread across their faces. That's when Karen pulled out a fake notice and slapped it against my gate. "You're evicted as of today," she declared, waving the paper like it meant something. I didn't move. I just smiled and said, "Funny, because the sheriff already knows you're trespassing." At that moment, sirens cut through the air in the distance. Karen's fake confidence cracked. The thugs turned toward her, waiting for orders, but she was pale now. She didn't expect me to call in backup before she arrived, and she definitely didn't expect who was about to pull up behind her. The patrol car pulled up fast, lights flashing red and blue across the whole street. Karen froze like a deer in headlights, but the thugs didn't get it yet. They puffed out their chests, pretending nothing was wrong. The sheriff stepped out, hat tilted low, hand resting near his holster. Karen rushed forward, her voice shrill. "Sheriff, arrest this man. He's refusing to follow HOA law, and he threatened us with a gun." The sheriff didn't even look at her at first. He walked straight to me, shook my hand, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "You holding up all right?" Karen's jaw dropped. She sputtered, "What? Why are you on his side?" "He's breaking the rules." The sheriff finally turned to her, eyes cold. "Lady, there is no HOA here. This land is under county jurisdiction, and I already warned you about impersonating an official." One of the thugs tried to interrupt. She said he was squatting, but the sheriff cut him off, pulling a folder from his car. He held up the deed with my name on it, stamped and sealed. "This man owns every inch of this property, fair and legal." Karen's face drained of color. She lunged for the paper, but the sheriff snapped it back and said, "Touch this again, and you'll be charged with destruction of evidence." The street went dead silent, only my canine growling under his breath. The thugs shifted nervously, realizing they weren't the muscle. They were pawns. And Karen, well, for the first time, she looked like she was the one about to get thrown out. Karen's voice cracked as she tried to recover. "Sheriff, you don't understand. He threatened me with a loaded weapon. He pointed it right at us." She grabbed at her throat like she was some innocent victim. The thugs nodded along, forcing fake outrage. "Yeah, he was ready to shoot us down." The sheriff didn't flinch. Instead, he looked straight at me and asked, "You got the footage?" I smiled, reached into my pocket and handed him my phone. Karen's eyes widened. "Footage? What footage?" The sheriff tapped the screen, and right there under the flashing lights the video played. Karen pulling up, barking orders, sending her thugs toward my porch while I stood calm. My shotgun never once raised. Then clear as day, Karen slapping that fake eviction notice onto my gate. Her own voice screamed on the recording. "Make him sign or drag him out." The sheriff turned the volume up so the neighbors who had started peeking from their porches could hear every word. Murmur spread. A woman across the street whispered, "She's been lying this whole time." Karen's mask slipped, panic flooding her face. She lunged at the sheriff's hand like she could snatch the phone, but my canine leapt forward, barking so loud she stumbled back into one of her own thugs. The sheriff snapped his cuffs open with one hand. "Enough lies. Enough games. Impersonation, harassment, trespassing. How deep do you want this to go, Karen?" For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. She just stood there shaking while her thugs slowly started to back away, realizing they'd been dragged into something much bigger than they signed up for. The sheriff didn't put the cuffs on right away. Instead, he pulled another document from his folder, this one stamped with the county seal. He held it up for everyone to see. Karen here has been sending out fake HOA letters for months. Dozens of complaints from this neighborhood have already landed on my desk. She's been charging people illegal fees and threatening them with eviction. Gasps rippled through the crowd, now gathering at the end of the street. One neighbor shouted, "She took $200 from me for lawn violations." Another added, "She locked me out of my garage until I paid her cash." The sheriff's jaw tightened. Yeah, that money never went to any HOA. It went straight into her personal account. Karen's eyes darted left and right, searching for escape. She stammered, That's not true. They're lying. This is slander." But her own thugs stepped away from her like she carried the plague. One of them muttered, "Lady, you didn't say nothing about this being illegal." The sheriff stepped closer, lowering his voice but making sure everyone could hear. "You tried to run a fake government on my watch. That ends tonight." He looked back at me and nodded. "You've been more patient than most would have been." Karen shook her head wildly, her voice shrill again. "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA. I make the rules here." But no one was buying it anymore. The neighbors who once stayed quiet were now filming her every word, and for the first time, she realized her power was gone. Not because of me, not even because of the sheriff, but because her own lies had finally trapped her. Karen's eyes went wild like a cornered animal. She suddenly snatched the fake binder from her SUV and held it up over her head. "This is legal authority!" she screamed. Then in a move nobody expected, she hurled the binder at my K9. My dog dodged, teeth bared, but the act made the crowd gasp in shock. "Enough!" the sheriff barked, stepping forward, but Karen wasn't done. She reached into her purse and pulled out a cheap plastic badge, waving it like it was gold. "See, I'm authorized. Deputized by the county." Her voice cracked, desperate, almost hysterical. The sheriff stared at the badge for a moment, then burst out laughing, sharp and cold. "That's a toy store badge. You just committed another felony, impersonating law enforcement." He pulled out his real badge, flashing it next to hers. The difference was humiliating, almost comical. Phones from every angle captured it. Karen lunged forward, trying to grab my shotgun like she thought she could flip the story, but my K9 launched himself between us, forcing her back. She stumbled into the dirt, clutching the fake badge, her face red and streaked with sweat. The sheriff didn't hesitate this time. He grabbed her wrists, snapped the cuffs on, and read her rights loud enough for the neighbors to hear. The thugs stood frozen until the sheriff turned his gaze on them. "You want to go down with her?" he asked. They put their hands up immediately and backed away. We didn't know she was lying. "We're done." The street was buzzing now. Neighbors cheering, cameras recording. Karen's authority was shattered in one single moment, and yet I knew she still had one more card to play. Even with cuffs on her wrists, Karen's mouth never stopped running. She twisted around, glaring at me with pure venom. "You think this is over? You think locking me up changes anything? I have people above the sheriff. Real people." Her words dripped with bitterness as she demanded, "Give me my phone." The sheriff shook his head. "Not happening." But one of the deputies who had just arrived pulled it out of her bag, bagged for evidence. Karen smirked. "Good. Then put it on speaker. Let everyone hear." Against his better judgment, the sheriff did, maybe just to end her games once and for all. She dialed fast, muttering, "You'll regret crossing me." The call clicked, and a man's voice answered. "Karen, what now? You're supposed to keep things quiet." The whole crowd went silent. Karen shouted, "They're arresting me! You promised protection." The sheriff narrowed his eyes. "Who is this?" The man laughed nervously, then hung up instantly. But it was too late. His voice carried, and half the neighborhood recognized it. Whispers shot through the crowd. "Wait, wasn't that Councilman Briggs?" "Oh my God, the county official!" The sheriff's face hardened.